Hello, in today's blog, we're going to talk a little bit about another retirement benefit available to members of the service, and that is the Thrift Savings Plan, usually just shortened to TSP. This is a different plan and a different benefit than the military retired pay. So we're going to take some time to talk about the differences between the two benefits and how they can affect both spouses in a divorce matter. So the Thrift Savings Plan is the federal government / military equivalent of a 401k, usually called a defined contribution plan. It is different than the military retired pay of the service member, which is more akin to a pension defined benefit plan. So we'll discuss the military retired pay, the pension portion in several other blogs, but the TSP, the 401k plan, is a separate benefit that we should address, should only take one blog or so, but it is an important benefit to consider. So there are a couple of similarities, but also some differences between the two plans. We've talked about one being the defined benefit, one being the defined contribution. However, be aware that the TSP plan does not have any limits on how much of a service member's income can be placed into the plan. Keep in mind that it is, like most 401ks, pre-tax contribution. So the money will, for investment in the TSP, will come out of the service member's pay pre-tax and is then taxed after its removal from the 401k. Theoretically, the tax at the time it's being removed will be less because the person who has the asset will be removing it upon their retirement, when presumably their income will be lower, they'll be in a different tax bracket, and it can grow, it can accumulate over time. However, one of the main things to consider for a TSP plan is that it still must be divided by a specific order called a qualified domestic relations order. That is different than your divorce judgment. Your divorce judgment is a document that usually includes a portion indicating how property will be divided, and that includes the Thrift Savings Plan. However, the plan itself must be divided specifically with a separate document, and that is the Qualified Domestic Relations Order. So the order must be drafted very carefully and must be addressed usually with a separate financial evaluator or financial expert who is aware and knowledgeable of how to divide these government plans. So that will occur, the Qualified Domestic Relations Order will occur typically after the divorce judgment is granted. That document is then drafted, sent to the government, DFAS, to divide the benefit between the spouses. However, it's important to consider the tax ramifications of the division of the plan and also what it can be used for. So first, the plan division can be used to pay a lump sum of the plan to the ex-spouse. It can be used to pay child support, it can be used to pay debt, and all those are legitimate uses of the plan, and the spouses should work together with their divorce lawyers to figure out, upon the division and potentially withdrawal of funds for various purposes, what is the most beneficial means of carrying out their intent on dividing this plan. One thing that your divorce lawyer must be aware of is the different tax treatment of how these benefits will be divided. So a lump sum payment to an ex-spouse is going to be taxed to the ex-spouse. So for example, if you are the wife of a service member and you are due to receive $50,000 from the Thrift Savings Plan, you must be aware that you're actually going to need to receive more than that to arrive at the $50,000, because the amount transferred to you is ultimately going to be taxed. So in all likelihood, you would have to have, let's say, $70,000 transferred to you. So after tax, you net the $50,000 that you are entitled to. On the other hand, if the funds are used for child support, they're going to be taxed to the service member. Another option that sometimes spouses will use is to take a withdrawal from the TSP to pay down debt. That is legitimate. That absolutely is not a problem. But again, the tax consideration should be considered because if the service member takes the withdrawal and pays the debt, then the service member will pay the tax on it. If the funds are transferred to the ex-spouse will pay the tax on the debt, on the transfer. So if the couple agrees to take a transfer from the TSP to pay down debt, then it is a good idea for their lawyers to consider, perhaps with an accountant, what is the most beneficial way, tax-wise, to take the withdrawal. And it may be to transfer funds to the ex-spouse who may have a lower tax bracket upon withdrawal, and therefore there is more money to pay towards the debt. But overall, both spouses should consider that when the transfer is made, they need to know what, in fact, they are receiving, and they should discuss with their lawyer what the tax treatment is going to be to ensure they get what they believe is coming to them. The TSP, the 401k portion of the federal retirement regime is a lot less complicated to divide than the military retired pay, the pension portion. However, it's still vital for you as a couple, a military couple in a divorce matter, to speak with your lawyer to ensure that you and he or she understand the ramifications of drafting this document to divide the plan, and making sure that the document is ultimately drafted correctly and you understand what you're actually going to be receiving.